then the Sanders will have to fund the works or our capital works budget.
Very good then. So for my education, where is the benefit of these development cost charges being applied?
Well, through the chair, development cost charges are collected for many infrastructures. It's not the roads only. It's collected for water, sewer, storm drains, and roads. And the road works that were identified in the bylaw are on Lily and Parsio Rogers and on Quadra Street. As you know, we still need to do a lot of work on Quadra Street.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that clarification.
Council, any other questions of staff? I have one myself before we turn it over to a decision. I'm going to ask you, Mr. Finlow, there was a concern raised by Mr. Charania about what he described as a disregard for the local area plans. I'm wondering if you would be comfortable trying to explain how, for my benefit, the interplay between obviously a rezoning but yet adhering to certain parameters of the local area plan, because his examples sounded quite large, and I guess first off, be comment on the accuracy, and then the interplay between a rezoning and respecting the local area plan.
Yes, through the chair. I think as a base, I would say, you know, certainly we look very carefully at the policies in both the local area plan, which incidentally is extremely out of date and in many respects does not reflect the realities of development densities to support the kind of market we have today. But that being aside, part of the difficulty with this site, it being mixed use, is that the local area plan didn't contemplate the commercial industrial component of this development. So the densities which were reflected in number of units were meant to apply to mixed residential development over the entire site. I think that the densities are slightly higher, depending on how you apply that, or whether you look strictly at the attached housing component, or if you look at the residential component in total, or if you look at that kind of density applied over the entire site. In I think it was the first supplemental report, we commented on that, and we noted that compared to the types of densities that we're seeing today under, for instance, our RT3 zone, that the density proposed for the attached housing is relatively low. It falls within what would be permitted normally under RT2 and RT3. It falls in between those densities. We don't feel it's inappropriate for the site. We do feel that it's in keeping with the spirit of what was intended in the local area plan, and certainly is supported by policies in the official community plan.
Thank you very much for that. I'm just going to clarify then, so the comments about that would infer that the local area plan as is not accurate to what is being done around the rest of Saanich. But if we were to enforce the local area plan firmly, then this potentially would not be appropriate. So the aspirational nature of where we suspect our local area plan would be going for North Quadra is perhaps already helping to shape the decision. That's a statement. You don't have to answer that. If I'm wrong in that, please correct me.
You're correct.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you for indulging my question, Council. At this point, I would turn it over to Council for a decision. We do have a recommendation from planning in front of us, and we can welcome that motion or any other motion that the Council wishes to move forward.
Move the recommendation.
Second.
Okay, moved by Haynes, seconded by Councillor Workland. Councillor Haynes, would you like to open on this? Or motivate? You do not have to, of course.
I will. And it's been a very interesting evening listening to everyone's discussion and hearing the detailed history of this site and different people's visions of the site. I would like to reflect on some of these things, but in doing so, where I'm coming from in this is, what is our community? What is this community of Saanich? Do we want to have jobs in Saanich? And when I was just at UBCM the other week, I was talking to other mayors and councillors, and they were talking to me about how difficult it is to entice companies into their area and the kinds of offers that they make. And previously, working at Planning, Transportation and Economic Development Committee, which I'm the chair of, we had Dallas Giselson from the Victoria Greater Development Agency, and company retention should be one of the highest priorities in an area, in a city. You have to look after the companies that are there, as well as trying to attract new ones in. And I hope through this next years of this term we start to see more companies come into Saanich. But it's tough to get them here. So what does this mean? Those that are here, we need to make sure we're looking after. But not at any price. Not at any price. So what does this company retained in Saanich bring to the community? We've heard the farm community say how important it is to have food processing. Just a couple of years ago, I think it was 2013, just past last year, we have a local food task force being looked at to go forward to say, what is local food security? One of our mandates is climate change. One of the criticism is that only 20% of the food is local that's processed. Thank goodness we've got 20% being processed locally. That's not a criticism. To me, that's an aspiration. We've seen the lack of water that's happening in California. How long will we be dependent on them at the levels that we are? We need to protect every aspect of local food security that we can, and this is a key component of that. Never mind that it supports over 100 jobs. We've heard that economically it brings in $3.2 million in revenue, in wages to Saanich. Additionally, these homes of about 42, if we were to say the families living in them would have about $80,000 to $100,000 a year in net income, which the Stats Canada 2011 analysis suggests is what's needed to buy a house at the $375,000 to $400,000 range. That's an economic base coming into Saanich by filling these residencies of about $3.5 million. So each year there's about $7 million in value in Saanich, and that talks to the economic fabric of our municipality. When I pulled down some numbers today from the BC site, and you look at the spend, it goes on food, it goes on entertainment, it goes on vehicles, repairs, etc. This is money being spent locally in Saanich. So when I look at the community of Saanich, I see this as it has a serious addition to the quality of life that we can have here. Now, the argument has been made that the amenity figure at $168,000 is not enough. But I see a larger picture. I heard today from people that are asking Saanich to look after these jobs because they work in them. I see an opportunity here for people to work and live and in the neighbourhood. Some of these homes will be purchased and lived in by the people that work at this plant. When we look at climate change, living and working in place without the need for daily transportation is one of the greenest things we can do. Separately, we talk about Saanich as a family, and some people have said, well, you know, what does that mean? Well, to me, that means when we look at our community, we try to see what do we like as neighbours to each other. And I think the Fat family keeping this company in Saanich is a great addition to our family on that basis. But there's another company involved here, Portofino Bakery. And as I understand it, And the bakery's been so successful, I actually pulled down something. I'll just refer to my note, if I may. Just bear with me a second. I've got mixed up with my papers. Okay, I'll go from there. Portofino Bakery did something like 3,000 loaves of bread not so long ago. They're now doing 16,000 loaves of bread. And where's that bread coming from? Wheat or grain from California? No, it's from the farms on this island. Now, because of the nature of their business and the trucking of that vegetable into the island to be processed here, that means that there's a lot of trucks coming in this way full, but going the other way empty. But because of that business that you've seen talked at this processing facility, those trucks that are going back empty will now be carrying breads and grains from the island, and the island will be exporting grain products for the first time, I believe, in a very long time. So this whole thing is kind of integrated in a economic package that has a lot of synergy to it, and the ability to grow and sell grain here from our agricultural lands adds jobs into the agricultural community, which talks again to the task force that's going to look at viable economic farming in the area. So for me, the fact that this business is staying here and would bring in $7 million a year in economic activity, the fact that each year going forward they will be paying $200,000 or so in total taxes, that to me is such an asset for the community. I would be loath to see it disappear if this development was not approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haynes. Councillor Workland, as seconder, do you wish to speak to this? And then Councillor German and Bryce.
Thank you very much, Chair. First, I'd like to thank members of the public for coming out and sitting and sitting and sitting. You've done well. But more than anything, I appreciate you coming out and sharing your concerns and your interest in your community. It says a lot for you as a community. I'd also like to thank the Fat family for reinvesting in Saanich. And remember, you look at, there's been a lot of talk about amenities that have been offered. And I've often found with amenities, if $1 is offered, I'd like to see $1.25. If $2 is offered, $2.50 is better. And there's never quite enough, and it's just the way we are as people. And I think our communities, they feel much the same. But I believe the biggest amenity we have here is this redevelopment of this industrial area in Saanich and in your community. I also look at the buffering, the thought that's been put into this development, where you really have the townhouses and the homes buffering the industrial part from the existing homes. And I see that as being very positive. And also coming back to the truck traffic, the access to the building, again, it's on the Douglas side. There again, the applicant is considering the community. In my mind, we have a good development here which I believe will complement this community. And it is close to amenities. It's close to schools, it's close to parks, close to transit, close to shopping, offices, medical professionals. It has a lot going for it. But I'd also like to say this, there's no question that many of our residents in Saanich would like to see more sidewalks. For those of you that were out last night, as we looked at the Shelbourne Action Plan, and it was a 30-year plan that we're looking at, and we heard from the residents that they really wanted it to happen much, much quicker, like in the next 5 years. And we all want things to happen now, but coming back to the applicant, I believe what he has given is reasonable. I believe what your community would like. I believe it's something we need to build on as a municipality. You do need more sidewalks, you do want more sidewalks, but as we look across the municipality, there are many communities out there that would like to see more sidewalks there. And it was mentioned that we got a sidewalk that goes nowhere. And as you look across Saanich, we have a lot of sidewalks that go nowhere, that got in with development and they come to an end. But over a period of time, they will be connected. And it's not something that Saanich isn't aware of. It's something, it's an ongoing development that we're looking at. But thanks for coming out, thanks for sharing, and I do support what's before us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Berglund. Councillor Dermott?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to start out by looking at some of the mobility issues in this area on Con and Dieppe area. And first of all, I think there's some things that we've definitely got wrong. Even if we were to put a sidewalk all the way up Con, it is a hazardous street for other than just pedestrians. It is a hazard. I cycled several times over to this property in the process of this application. It's a hazardous street to cyclists. And in fact, it's in some ways a hazardous street to those who are using automobiles, because people come down that hill and they come down it quickly. And I experienced that on one time when I was cycling over, when I almost got hit by somebody that was going down that hill at considerably more than the speed limit. So one of the things that we probably should have been looking at in that area, as if we were to put this development in, is to look at some traffic calming on Con. That's what is really needed, I think. The sidewalk would be helpful. I think the traffic calming would be even more important, because there's a problem with speed of traffic down there, and it is not safe for multiple modes of transportation. It was pointed out that where Con hits, Con or Dieppe, whichever, I can't remember at this point, where it hits Douglas down at the bottom of the hill, that right now it's almost a 90-degree turn, and that's unsafe. Well, I think that's actually wrong from a cyclist point of view, because what that does is force the traffic to slow down as they have to turn. What's going to happen now with that gentler, what people say is safer turn, it's probably going to be a faster turn. That's less safe for cyclists. I'm really disappointed, as others have said, that this is a local connector. It's an important local connector on Douglas and through Dieppe, and ultimately across into the Broadmead area. That in this kind of large development, we're not looking at acquiring at least the facile capability to add bike lanes in the near future. That's really a considerable oversight in my view. There's a couple of aspects. Really, you can divide this application into two parts: the renewal of the industrial operation and the residential component. I think, like probably most people in this room, if not all, I very much support the renewal of the industrial operation. It's important for all the reasons that have been stated. I think Mr. Charania recognized that in his long presentation, and I think the Community Association recognized that. We would all, and even though it's primary, it's within a residential neighborhood, and if things were starting out now, it might not be there. Nevertheless, it has been there historically. It's an important part of the community, important part of Saanich, and I think everybody accepts that it be renewed and essentially exist in that area for a long period of time. I would like to see that happen, and I would wish Mr. Fatt great success in his business if it does happen. But then there's also the residential component. Mr. Strongathorn in his presentation at one point said the housing will support the redevelopment of the industrial area. That's not how things are supposed to work, plain and simple. You know, the business should be standing on, should be standing on its own as a business. We shouldn't be granting housing to support a business. That's not the way the zoning process is supposed to go about. There are a lot of the aspects of the housing development that are reasonably attractive. It's certainly not going to be a lower class development in any way whatsoever. But it is, without question, and I don't think I would have to disagree with our planner, it is substantially above what is expected in the local area plan. Not slightly, substantially. And you can't measure the whole property when a large part of it is being used for the industrial area. That's completely inappropriate. You have to measure the area that is being used for housing, because it's a separate component, and the density was intended for a given density on an amount of area used for housing. This is not the worst place in the municipality, inside the urban containment boundary, to put density, not by a long shot. This council unfortunately has chosen to put additional density up on top of Carmel Ridge. That's a much worse place to put density. This is a better place. But it's also not the best place. And if we're looking at the aspirational direction of the North Quadrant plan, it would be not to put increased density in this particular area. It would be to put it around the Quadra-Mackenzie area, which has been identified for a long time as the high density area of that community, closest by far to a whole variety of services, including shopping and other services. I think it's dangerous if we start to interpret that when you're a kilometer and a half or something away from a shopping center, that you're within walking distance of shopping. It isn't for most people. I think Mr. Wolf at one time, when this application came forward, provided us with a map that put circles around our major centers and villages in Saanich. And that map showed that virtually every single neighborhood in Saanich would be considered within walkable distance of a shopping center, if that's the standard you made. That's not what we want to do. We want to be putting a standard forward that says, how are we going to put density in the right places? This is not the best one, but it is not the worst. So when this process was going, I went to see Mr. Fatt, and I said, I have some concerns about the level of density in this particular location. I said I could accept some increased density above the local area plan, but I find this somewhat excessive. And he indicated that the level of density would stay the same. So I was a little bit concerned, also quite a bit concerned, when I found out that over the time of this application, the density had increased, both in numbers of units and in size of units. So as opposed to, compared to what was presented to the Community Association in 2011, the density continued to grow, and the total size of the residential units continued to grow as well. My sense then was that I was conflicted in that this was more density than we really should put here. And my sense was that that might be ameliorated to a certain degree if there was substantial benefit to the community in return for that substantial density bonusing that exists there. I haven't seen that. Mr. Strongatharn put forward a very careful argument in favor of the fact that this was really quite good community amenity, I guess as is his job, but I found it not entirely objective and certainly not compelling. This is, for what is being asked here, this is not a strong amenity package. I said the last time, as did a number of councillors around this table, that they found the amenity package weak. The addition of $10,000 doesn't dramatically change that. It really doesn't. I think that when we are asking the community to accept additional density in less than the most desirable place, that will have implications for all sorts of things, and in fact may adversely affect climate change by having a lot more people going to various things by car, that there is an expectation that something will be returned to the community. Of course we want to promote business in this municipality. Of course I want to see Mr. Fat stay around, and of course I want to see him succeed. Absolutely. But at what cost to the community? There is a quid pro quo that must be fair. Again, I'll refer to Mr. Strong-Atharm's presentation, where he said the whole thing should be a situation of reasonableness and fairness. I would agree. Reasonableness and fairness to the applicant, and also reasonable and fairness to the community. And I don't think, at the present time, we are accomplishing the latter. And I feel if we approve this residential component of the development as it currently exists, we are approving this project on the backs of the community. And we are failing to reach the standard of reasonableness and fairness to the community. And that is not right. So I wish very much that I could support this development. I really strongly want to see that business stay there and that business succeed. But to do that, I need a better balance between what the applicant needs and what the community needs. And I don't see that balance there. So I'm not going to support it this time.
Thank you, Councillor Dermott. Councillor Rice?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank the presenters and the members of the public who came out to add to the discussion here tonight. The last time this was before us, I was one of the individuals who commented on the size of the amenity package, so I might as well be right up front with that right now and deal with it. I did find Mr. Strong-Atharm's arguments compelling. As I listened, I thought it was practically Community Amenity Contributions 101. It reminded us what the amenity package was to do and what it was not to do. So looking at this project, it is unusual, it's unique, let's face it. Nobody would have gone out and kind of blended these two uses together, probably in any kind of planning package. But we've got a jewel of a business. We have an owner who's prepared to make a significant investment to keep that business in our area. That's all good news, terrific news. It wasn't until one of the previous presentations that he made that I even realized that Portofino was a part of this amazing operation. I mean, there's a company that's in a growth pattern for sure. So I think there's no argument that the processing operation is good for the community, the fact that the investment is being made, all good. So then we come to the housing, and really it's the housing that triggers the amenity package at all, as far as I'm concerned, in this particular proposal. Because I think that that's the addition. So is the amenity package reasonable? And looking at it, $168,500, I've come to the conclusion that it is. We have the items laid out. Certainly the sidewalk. There are people who've spoken and would like it to extend further. I would like it to extend further. Always put the nudge to our own staff. We're looking at priorities, you know, that if there is an opportunity in this area while this sidewalk is being constructed, if there was something around in the list of priorities of sidewalks that Saanich could contribute to that, I'd be totally supportive of it, but I certainly am not going to put the staff on the spot at this point. I never think that's the way to make your investments in the community. They carefully weigh and consider priorities. The light, as acknowledged by the member of the community who is very interested in safety, that will be a good addition. And the affordable housing, I mean, this is not inexpensive housing, but it's not high-end housing. And it's really only in the last decade that we've even expected this sort of relatively modest housing to start also contributing to affordable housing. I'm all for it, but it comes at a price, and they're contributing to that $63,000. And Gabo Creek, the great thing about it, I think, is that it's now on the books. There is an amount of money there. It's been my observation that oftentimes seed money like this triggers other dollars, and I would expect, particularly with people like Harold Wolf staying totally on top of this project, that this will be seen as the beginning of what will undoubtedly be a significant restoration project over the years. So the processing plant, the housing, the amenity package, I am certainly prepared to give this my support tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Bryce. Councillor Brownhouse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just want to say that, you know, this is an unusual site, a comprehensive development site where you have a food processing, a historic food processing facility that in the local area plan wasn't going to stay there. There was going to be some more